Hey, everybody. My guest today is a true heavyweight in the world of the weird. He is the host of Paranormal 60. He is an author. He is an investigator and one of the most curious and entertaining voices in the paranormal. He's been chasing ghosts, UFOs, cryptids, and mysteries for decades and was actually the person who first recommended me for my very first ghost adventures 10 years ago. So please welcome my friend and true paranormal powerhouse, Dave Schrader. Welcome, Dave.
Patty, thank you so much for having me on. And you forgot, I'm now starting to dabble in understanding psychic abilities, so I've become psi curious.
I love Psych Curious. That's beautiful. And one of the funniest guys in the paranormal.
I try.
Really, you are the guy, and you are the voice of the paranormal. Even if we're at some big paracon and there's 10,000 people, there's one person we hear, and you're the one getting us to the right spot. It's where's Dave? Go to the theater. It's awesome. So you went into the right career.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's been a calling since I was a child, and I'm glad that I followed that lead, and then I was able to marry my love of radio with my fascination with the paranormal and create paranormal talk radio. And I've been doing it now for 19 years, and
19 years. That's
I'm the host of the
amazing.
Paranormal 60 podcast and a paranormal radio show called Paranormal 360, which is heard here in Minnesota on WCCO radio. So
Oh,
it's
that's
a lot of fun.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes, because you had Darkness Radio forever, and that was one of the longest running radio shows ever. Now you have Paranormal 60. These are great shows, you guys. Check them out, all you podcast people and radio people. So, how did you have this? I mean, this is a weird industry we are in.
Mhm.
So, how did you have this since childhood? I mean, I know you're really gifted more than you think you are, or maybe you know you are. So, were you having paranormal experiences as a kid, or?
Yeah, I've had the paranormal around me my whole life, so it was never anything dramatic or weird. I would never put myself in the category of being a medium or a psychic. However, like most people, we've all had those fleeting moments. And I have seen ghosts, which I guess makes you mediumistic to a degree. I've heard ghosts. I've been touched by a ghost. I've been knocked on my butt by a ghost. So I'm obviously open to it. I try not to shy away from the strange and supernatural. I just accept it as a part of our world, like I do with my 11 children. You're gonna get knocked down once in a while. You're gonna cry once in a while. You're gonna get scratched once in a while. Doesn't mean they're demons. It just means they're trying to get your attention.
Exactly, exactly. I like that. I think demons get way too much credit.
Yeah.
I completely. It's like I think that's just a cranky ass ghost. Personally, I don't think that's a demon. I think he was just a grouch in life, and he's a grouch now. Uh, so you've
Yeah.
been many shows, amazing shows, Holzer Files, looking into all that old Holzer stuff, and that was a beautiful series. Looking back into
Thank
things.
you.
Um, did you have any? I mean, again, I honestly think in a lot of ways that kind of contributed to what modern paranormal TV. We had to get away from what everybody was doing, having more of a storyline. So, did you have any special things that want to stood out about that particular show? Or
Well, just the fact that I was asked to step into the, very prominent footsteps of one of America's first and most preeminent paranormal investigators, Dr. Hans Holzer. And for your listeners, if they're not familiar, Holzer, Dr. Hans Holzer was a parapsychologist. He was a witch. I don't know if you know that about him,
no, I
Patty.
didn't know
Yeah.
that.
He had written books about being a witch. I was lucky enough on my old radio show to be the one to have the last radio interview with Dr. Hans Holzer. And it was
Wow.
through that and his daughter Alexandra that I was asked to become part of the Holzer Files TV series. And we ran for 2 seasons, 23 episodes. Um, and it was just wonderful. A chance to kind of re-examine those stories, those cases, and see what still stands up to the test of time. And it was amazing because this guy was way ahead of his time. I mean, he investigated for 40, 50 years, and, right up until his passing, he was still reading and writing and, giving advice to people that were dealing with hauntings. So it was a real honor to get a chance to step into his footsteps and get to reinvigorate these cases because he always believed no case is ever truly closed. We may help a spirit and get answers for them or answers for the living, and that chapter may close, but usually something else steps up, as you know, having been such an active part of the paranormal field for so long that you're never fully done with a case. There's always another chapter that unfolds and a new storyline to examine.
That's amazing. Plus, we went in with modern technology. Hans Holzer didn't have like, SLS cameras and all these things that are insane now. It's like, okay, just talk to the ghost. Here's a little machine right there.
Well, what he did was he brought in trance mediums. And for your listeners that may not be familiar, trance mediums are mediums that allow the spirit to come through them and speak through them. Automatic writing is a form of trance mediumship, but this was fully allowing the spirit in and to communicate. And when I interviewed Dr. Holzer, I go, "Are you ever kind of bothered that, boy, you wish you had all this equipment that we have now?" And he said, "No, the only thing you need is a good camera, a good audio recorder, and a good trans medium, and that gets the story." And I will admit, when I interviewed him, I kind of rolled my eyes about it, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, trans medium, that's the only tool you
Wow.
really need." And it wasn't out of disrespect for what mediums and trans mediums do, but I like to corroborate what you're getting, but he did it in a different way, right? He brought in a trance medium who had no idea what this place was, why they were there. He would connect with the other side through that, and it was really kind of beautiful. And now here we are re-examining those cases 50, 60 years later, and we're finding that they were right on target with what they were uncovering, because with the advent of new technology and new research ability, we were able to go back and uncover truths about those properties and histories that even Dr. Holzer didn't know about. And so it was a fascinating ride. Cindy Kaza, Shane Pittman, and myself have reunited. We were on the Holzer Files together. After that, Cindy and I rolled over to a TV show called Ghosts of Devil's Perch, where we spent almost 4 months living in Butte, Montana, trying
And
to
we're
help
going to
the
talk about that next.
yeah, helping them try to understand what's going on. But we've now reunited and we're filming a new series called Paranormal Mysteries. And it's the
Hmm.
three of us going out and investigating different stories, sometimes cases that are very well known, but we're finding the thread that a lot of people have missed, or narratives that have been greatly exaggerated, and trying to put right what was wrong or what's being done wrong out there. So we're excited. That's going to be on Stream Beacon TV and will begin airing mid September through October. So we're pretty excited and amped up to be getting together to do that.
Awesome. That is great
Mhm.
because you guys are a great team. You have great
Thank you.
dynamics. Cindy, I must say, she is actually one of my favorite, or maybe the top, my favorite medium. She is amazing. Her sense of detail and evidential stuff.
Hmm.
I remember way back at Michigan many years ago now. Um, we were doing the big theater there, and for some reason they forgot to have a mic runner. And she's like, "I'll do it." And I'm like, "Oh my God, you're my idol. You can't run my mic in this football field." So I'm like, "Okay, you do it for me, but I'll do it for you tomorrow." And then just watching her work, I'm like, "Oh yeah, I have to give somebody the mic." She's just amazing.
Yeah.
It just the so I'm glad you guys are together still. That is good.
We
The other show
created
that
a
you, huh?
we created a really interesting family dynamic and bond. I love those two like they're my own brother and sister, and I was very happy to step back into this realm with them at my side to see what new stories. And I think this season, we're investigating. We found some really incredible new elements of things that are opening up our minds to the paranormal, and it's not just contained to ghosts, but other type of entities and energies. So it's pretty big, and we're excited about it. It'll be 6 episodes for this first season. If it goes well and people like it, we'll continue to make more.
That is awesome. So you guys check it out on Stream Beacon, a new channel, a brand new channel. So that's awesome. Okay, let's go over to when I watched the Devil and
Ghosts
whatever
of Devil's Perch,
Ghosts
right?
of
Yeah,
Devil's Perch. It's a long title,
it is.
but I think I mentioned it to you last time I saw you, but I'm not sure. I was brought out to Butte about 2 years before you guys, but without TV cameras with anything. But I met Chris Fisk, everybody. They brought me out. They drove me around to figure out what was going on there. It was so crazy. The activity is so high. I
Yeah.
personally, I think it's because they're sitting on a bump. All that metal underground, the copper, the gold, the silver, they're right there at the Continental Divide. There's 10,000 feet of miles of tunnels underneath. There's that pit. It's just like it's a battery pack. But what did you guys find there? Because that place intrigued me. And when you guys like, yay, there's a whole series about this crazy place.
What we found was, I thought, pretty compelling. Obviously, you're right. There was a lot of the magnetic principle of the location, but it was a location that's steeped in blood, sweat, and tears of a lot of people. And it was, a booming town where they were trying to find gold, silver, and copper and make their lives. And it was a violent area, right? It was filled with brothels, bars, and when you mix, alcohol and lots of work and little sleep, things can get a little volatile. So there was a lot of violence that broke out throughout Butte. So what we really kind of uncovered, and I thought was telling, was the fact that there were a lot of these sites. It's because a lot of these spirits have been forgotten. You remember the Copper Kings, all of the big names of the town, and we forget that they're only famous because of the hard work of the people that were under them, the people whose names aren't talked about as readily. And we were finding story after story where we were kind of uncovering the truth behind these people that were lost to time. And we promised we would tell their story, tell it properly, and get it out there. And, Chris Fisk being a historian, he wanted truth. He wanted to understand these things. And there were things that we uncovered that even blew his mind, and I really love that element of it, and he takes history so seriously. He was the history teacher there at the local high school, and he used to take his class. I mean, this tells you how powerful this man was in what he did. When I was in high school, there was a history club, and you can see it in my yearbook, and there were 12 nerds in the history club, and that was it, right? And, you had probably 15 in the nerd chess club, right? And I'm not putting it down, just hear me out, folks. Um, Chris Fisk had hundreds in the history club, hundreds, because they
Wow.
were so fascinated with learning and he made it come alive. And part of the way he made it come alive was by incorporating the dead. There was a little place, as you know, in Butte called the Cabbage Patch, which was kind of the designation was the homeless encampment, and they kept it pristine like it was. Just this little chunk of it, like a city block. Um, and they kept it there to remind people to keep the story alive, and they allow kids to go in and investigate and spend the night there and see what it's like. They're all of their, cell phones are taken away, everything that would make their life better. They sleep on cardboard and a blanket. They're trying to get a sense of what it was like to be there, and it's not one of those, oh, I'm not going to go spend the night in a cold old building. These kids, there had to be over 100 kids, and we actually incorporated them in the episode, so that you could see it, because there was something that had happened at the Cabbage Patch. And before he had this big event, he's like, guys, I need you to come in here and settle this, figure out what's going on. And we did.
That's amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you kind of put them on the map, which I think is good, and I think is good for Butte, because they need to be spotlighted a little bit.
Agreed.
That's amazing.
Beautiful people, lovely town, a lot of history, a lot of throwback. As a matter of fact, I'm looking at going back there hopefully sometime this year to do an event with Chris Fisk and have some fun. Cindy Kaza, Katie Stafford, and I were the cast of that show, along with Chris Fisk as our kind of our guide through the history of it. And the people of the town were so loving and supporting at what we did, and were willing to open their homes and their businesses and locations to us. And a lot of the places we got a chance to investigate were places that have never had that door opened up before for TV programming, and they were very proud and happy to be associated with us. And I've heard from some of the people even a couple years here afterwards that they haven't had the problems they were having. They're so thankful we came out. So it was a real blessing.
That is beautiful. Yeah, when I was there, just maybe 4 days, I was there. There was an old church that was very haunted because people saw like a body hanging from I don't think there ever was a body, but it had all this stuff. We literally did a clearing with the people of the town. It looked sort of like practical magic with a dozen people with brooms, and we turned it into the new LGBTQ plus center, from a scary old church to this new LGBTQ. It was like, this is the coolest thing ever. And then
That's
driving
awesome.
around the bus. So that is good. Now, you always had a really good sense of humor, about everything about in the paranormal. Is that hard, or does that help you get through some of we all, of course, have the dark and the scary stuff and the prisons and the asylum. How do you balance that out?
I try to keep it light, right? I mean, a lot of what we're doing is focused on death and the end of things, and our fascination and desire and want to know what happens next. Well, I also realize that there's a big collection of people that watch what we do with a raised eyebrow and a, shake of the head, or very skeptical in nature. I want them to know we understand how lunatic some of these things sound, how bizarre they are, and we can lean into it and have fun. There are some people who can't. They're so stoic in their way, and fantastic. Like Dr. Holzer was not your joking around kind of guy. So I'm very serious on the Holzer Files show. I always get a kick out of the fact that I met so many fans of the Holzer Files, and because I am goofy and funny and try to have some fun at live events, are like, man, I thought you were going to be just the biggest jerk, because you're so intense on the show, and now we get a chance to meet you, and you're happy, you're laughing, you're trying to make people enjoy it. And I just think, we have to embrace all elements, not just the weird, creepy, and dark, but the happy moments. And sometimes in an investigation, when we cut loose and we have some fun, we get even more energy. Monsters Inc., the movie, had it right. It's not always about the scares getting the energy up. It's about the fun of it and what we're doing. And sometimes we've caught EVP of one of us cracking a joke, and you hear laughter coming through a spirit box or through our recorders or out loud. So I think it's important, not just for us as investigators, but for the spirit realm, to bring something different and a new energy to the location. So it's not just this maudlin, we come here out of love and respect. And if there's anything, which is a good thing to have, right?
Yeah.
But also full, rich energy. They see that, the spirits see that a million times a week with every paranormal investigator that comes in. But what if we have a little fun with it? And what if we
Yes.
engage the ghosts in different ways? And I found that by doing that and thinking outside the box, we've had some really remarkable opportunity.
I think you're right. And I think that is important because ghosts are going to get bored with your typical little, when did you die? How did you die? Why did you
Right.
die? It's like,
Yeah.
what's your favorite game? I don't know. That's good. So if somebody, a lot of my group, my audience is divided between magical, spiritual, witchy people, and then the paranormal people, as
Mhm.
are my guests like you. So if somebody is going, I don't know about this paranormal thing. This sounds good. What would your great advice? What would your Do you have advice for somebody going, I want to go on my first ghost hunt?
I always start off with this. Ask yourself why. If you're just looking for a thrill, if you're just looking for fun and to get scared, go see a good horror movie, right? Go to one of those haunted houses that they have in October, where it's meant for entertainment, and get your scares. Go on roller coasters that are going to push that limit for you and get that adrenaline rush. Don't just go into a ghost hunt so that you can just have a weird experience for yourself. I think that that's damaging to the spirit realm and can be damaging to you if you're not taking things seriously, or too light of heart. You've seen it happen. I've seen it happen. The paranormal can affect you in many different ways, mentally, physically, spiritually. So I really think you got to be in the right headspace. Um, and if
Yeah.
you're living a chaotic life, you're a heavy drinker, you do drugs, you do things like that. Just realize that putting yourself in an element like this could be extremely difficult for you, and it might be fun and exciting at first, but you are going to draw some attention that you will not want and will not like. So I tell people, just be cautious. And the best way to begin is research, research, research. And you may think, that sounds so boring. But you know what? As an investigator, not a medium, going in and realizing the real story behind this, right? Okay, all we know is that at this museum, that the White Witch Patti Negra used to come here and investigate, and now sometimes at Zach Bagans' haunted museum, we see her spirit flitting about, and she's in one room or another, but she's terrifying. Well, why is she terrifying? Because we're seeing her ghost. What about her? Is her hair spinning? Is blood pouring out of her eyes? Well, no, but she's kind of skulking about. Well, maybe that's just because now that Patty's here in spirit realm, she's checking out what's going on here because she still loves the paranormal. I try to take people, de-escalate them from fear and get them
That
more engaged in wonder and
That is
awe.
beautiful. And I know why I am there because I'm probably lost in those hallways. I have no sense of direction. So I'm terrified because I can't find my way out more than it's like I'm surprised that I mean, without having somebody to lead me, I'd be in some weird prison on some weird aircraft carrier. I'd be lost in the bowels right now of anywhere. And speaking of looking at people, and again, not just going in, especially because drugs and alcohol, again, I drink. I don't drink a lot, but that is stuff that can bring in dark stuff. So you have to be careful where you're going.
Right, and I'm not just
So
talking about somebody that drinks. I
no,
mean, we all have a drink from time to time, but
yeah,
if you have heavy baggage in that sense, I don't know what the
yeah,
proper PC term is, but if it's something that is deeper than just a couple of drinks with friends on occasion, um, I you just have to be aware that you may draw energies that share that same value. And
yeah,
sometimes when those spirits are attracted to you, they feed off of you and it can wear you out mentally and spiritually and physically and may make you drink more than you did before or seek drugs because they want that rush with you. And it's just that's why I say it's something you have to be extremely cautious about. But I think getting into research, understanding why you're there, and what is your, I encourage people create a mission statement. Why are you doing this? Mine is to give voice to the lost, to help people that are lost, both living and dead, people that are seeking answers. Even these spirits, they seem to want things corrected or they want to be acknowledged for the right reasons, and they want their stories told. And these people that are having the experiences, they don't want you to just come in and say, yep, it's haunted.
mhm,
Sometimes they're coming to you because they're afraid. They want this house, they want this business, this is something that they've spent their life building up to, and now they may lose it because they don't know that they want to coexist with this kind of spirit realm. So
right.
what can we do to go in and help both the living and the dead coexist or separate?
Separate. Yeah, that's half of my business actually, going to places like that where they don't want that. How do you gently move on or whatever that
Mhm,
has to be? So speaking of that, talking what do you think of the places like we're just at Penhurst? The places that are seriously haunted and have
mhm.
serious history to it, and yet they really make their living and keep themselves by doing real haunted houses. What do you think that spirits that are really there, think of all these, because there's many locations that are all October they're doing fake funny haunt or scary haunted houses with chainsaws and people in sheets. So what do you
I
think spirits think of that? I'm really torn about that.
I I liken a lot of this to, I don't know if you ever saw that documentary about Shamu, the
Mm,
whale.
mm-mm.
And it's called, I think it's like called Blackfish or something. I watched it, very powerful, but taking it from an animal's right perspective, you can really see how damaging these things are. On the other side, and I know PETA won't like me saying this, I think about the millions of people that went to see Shamu, and that was their first interaction with wildlife, the first interaction with these amazing beings that were part of our sea life. And they learned everything
Yeah,
or opened their eyes to it. And I wonder, could we really expose this to to a wider audience by making it accessible? And that's what I feel that places like SeaWorld did. Maybe they didn't do it properly or 100% right, and is turning a haunted location into a venue for fun. And sometimes you have to break an egg to make an omelet. But I look at the long-term effect that all those people that were exposed to Shamu, how many of them became marine biologists or deep sea divers or environmental conservationists, or suddenly found themselves more intrigued on things outside of their cell phone and video games? And I think that's good. Um, and
yeah.
there's that
I agree
element.
wholeheartedly. Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly on that.
And
And again,
well, then with the haunted places, right? They've got this history that sometimes is very dark history. And I think it's okay to play upon that because when you play upon the darkness of humanity, you
I have a
can
dog.
find. Yeah. I thought it was an orca, a shamu, just making its presence known. But I think that it's an important opportunity um, to acknowledge the darkness of our world in the past so that we don't continue to make those mistakes, so we understand why these spirits are there. They're not there for our entertainment. But if you go into a place that was a former asylum where the spirits are tortured and broken and sad, you show the respect and adoration and adulation for these beings, um, to be a positive force and influence. And maybe by showing that love, that will help them to accept what they were and what they dealt with, and then they can move on. So history is an important element. I think if more history teachers were like Chris Fisk and they found an interesting way. I mean, think about it, Patty. You and I sitting in high school looking at the ceiling, right? Because oh my God, the American Revolutionary War. Who cares? This is 3 billion years ago. Let's just
Yeah.
talk about, let's talk about Cyndi Lauper and Madonna because we were teenagers in the 80s, right?
Yes, we
What if
were.
we want to know these things here and now? And but if you would have said to me, do you know, Dave, that there are sites where the spirits of those fallen warriors still walk? What? Wait, what? Yeah. Like the Battle of Antietam. Do you know, Dave, that the Battle of Antietam was one of the longest, bloodiest battles in American history, leaving behind all of these sad souls that their lives were ended in an instant. And people are going there to visit, to be a part of that history, and these spirits are there kind of as a guide. And all of a sudden, kids are engaged and they wanna know more about history, and I think we can use the paranormal to engage that element and draw people in, because that's why horror movies and scary roller coasters and haunted houses are fun. It's a way to engage the senses in a different way, and
Yeah.
engaging them with education, a little scary stuff, but tying it all together, I think that's phenomenal. It's gonna sink in, and kids will remember so much more about the things that we're teaching them, kids and adults. I've learned more about history as an adult than I ever did as a teenager, and all the things I thought I'd never need to know, I'm so glad I know now.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly because I did not pay attention in history class or pretty much any other class.
Right.
I was in there going Cindy Lauper or like,
Yeah.
ah, but that is fascinating. But and I think you're right. And again, I like zoos. I think they have to be properly run zoos, not
Mhm.
in cages, but in big places where they can go. I disagree with PETA on that too, because think of the children who would never see a penguin or a bear or anything else. That's part of
Right.
life. They just have to be done right. And I think the same thing with a haunted house in a location. And I did talk to some of the folks at Penhurst last week or whenever, and they said, well, yeah, we play off other things versus the history, so we keep that kind of sacred. So there's ways to
Right.
do it.
Right, if
As
you turn Penhurst into a haunted asylum where patients are strapped to the table screaming and they're being shocked, I would think, and I'm sorry, I've not been there, so I hope to God that's not what they do,
But
but
it
to me
isn't, absolutely
right.
won't do that.
But if they have Leatherface running around or Freddy Krueger in their basement, eh, those things and the spooky clowns, that's
Yeah,
fine because it's just engaging. But I think that's filling that place with energy, and that's probably what keeps it alive. And it keeps these old amazing Kirkbride buildings and things relevant. And it's I think it's fun. So that's what we have to do. That's why I don't have problems. And I've been to some places I'll never go back to because it was exploitive. And there is that fine line, and there are times you and I do paranormal events, and
mhm.
I've done them at the Palmer House. You were just out there a few weeks ago
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
the
yeah, like 3 days ago. Yeah.
well, no, we're in the future,
Oh
remember?
yeah,
This show's
yeah,
in the
weeks
future.
ago.
Yeah,
I was there
yeah,
weeks ago.
weeks ago, Patty.
Time zone.
The, uh, the Palmer House, right? I was like, "Is it wrong to exploit these women were maybe abused, beaten, and murdered prostitutes." Um, but then on the other side, it's like, no, because we're bringing people in, and now the consciousness is shifting in that place. People come with an adoration and a respect, and they're learning. And I
Yeah,
just learned something last year about the Palmer after going there for 18 years. I learned that the ghost stories go far back. As a matter of fact, there's a picture when it was the old Sauk Center house, and it's this old time picture of people out on the verandas and out on the porch, and you see horse-drawn carriages, and there's a ghostly image of a man that was caught in a photograph 145 years ago. And
wow.
and it exists, and it's not a double exposure, it's not a timed issue. It is a ghost, and there are other elements that have shown themselves throughout history that this site has a really remarkable energy. So, Kelly Freeze and Joy and the people that are there treat it with reverence and love and
Wonder-
respect, and they keep you from doing things. They don't want you in there calling ghosts out and being interruptive and disruptive, because then they're left with the aftermath. And it is a fully functioning pub and cafe and hotel, and they don't want you stirring the hornet's nest. And
no,
so there's places like that that you would never have known about Sauk Center. You would have never
I would.
known about that hotel had it not been featured on the paranormal shows.
Yeah, no, and I fell in love with it. And you're right,
Right.
Kelly, they created it beautifully. We started out each investigation with the seance and the communication we got, the heartfelt, amazing communication. There was no disrespect with anything, so it
Yeah.
was fun. So, and the food is good there too. Just
Very
saying.
good.
The,
So are the drinks.
yeah, yes, very good. And there's an ice cream parlor down the street. Just saying.
Mhm. It's everything you need
Um,
all in one place. I do love that. But, again, these are the sites that we have to take care of and we have to remember. And there are people like, gosh, you've got the Hillview Manor, another remarkable place where they love their ghosts and they are not opposed to helping those spirits that are showing up wounded and sad and looking for answers or compassion. You've got Palmer House, you've got the Hoover House. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head some of these amazing sites that really give an opportunity to re-examine them. You go to Gettysburg, and there's the Jenny Wade House and the old orphanage, and even the Eisenhower Hotel. And I'm going to be part of the Gettysburg Battlefield Bash in July, and there'll be a bunch of us there where it's a charity event where we help raise money for wounded warriors and for children with terminal diseases, and we make the paranormal accessible and fun. And we raised thousands of dollars last year for Daniel Class's daughter Shaylee, who's
yes.
going through cancer, and we do fun things like that. But it's a chance for you, the viewers, to come on out and be a part of these places in a safe environment with, I say this, professionals, meaning people that you've watched on TV, people that you admire, and you get a chance to kind of go in and hold their hands and see some of these places and investigate alongside them.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I so let's do it. Anyway, time is fleeting. Oh my God, I have so many questions. Well, I'm gonna, and these are questions that we get tired of answering, so I'm gonna do them as a lightning round. So
Okay,
whatever you say, whatever you say.
I'll
Okay.
go quick. All right.
So, yeah, lightning round. I just started doing this, going, oh, nobody wants to answer that question. So okay, favorite location you've ever investigated?
Impossible to answer because I love them all for different reasons.
I love that answer. Okay, most underrated ghost hunting tool.
Yourself. I really
Ah,
think that you need to be more present. Listen, I've gone the gambit. I've gone from when I started only having a camera and a recorder to I'm back to just really going in with a recorder, and I've tried every device. I'm the voice of the Ovilus. As a matter of fact, Ovilus like 5, 6 or whatever. I'm the actual voice you hear off of
you
that
are?
device.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
So the male voice, my friend Susan is the female voice, but I've tried all the different equipment and I love it. And there's points that they're great to help with, but sometimes I think it's just going in. And I know you were talking earlier about manifesting and intention setting, and sometimes
Yeah.
it's just going in, being present in that location, being present in that moment, and allowing the spirits to converse in different ways with you, and then recording and talking and trying to have an immediate interaction with them. So that my favorite tool is me and my
Me,
recorder.
I agree. These are the best answers yet. I agree
Thank you.
wholeheartedly. I even say that when we first get in. You are your ghost hunting tool. Okay, so let's go hard on this one. Favorite late night snack during investigations?
I don't eat during investigations, because I have a very unbalanced physicality, and my stomach will either, if I've got to eat just at the right time before an investigation, and then I wait till eat till after,
After
because I don't want my stomach gurgling and
making
while we're
noise.
trying to do
Ghost.
EVP. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay, that is a good
yeah.
answer.
Mhm.
Okay, is there one cryptid you would like to prove is real?
One cryptid. You know what? Yeah, I would love to prove Bigfoot is real because I had an experience when I was a kid, and I would love validation that that wasn't I didn't misidentify something. But for some reason, Loch Ness Monster has always, always compelled me. And I would love to know that there's just this live sea dragon that still exists in
And
in Loch Ness.
that would be very awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, if you could travel to any era, what area would you travel to?
Listen, I used to think I'd love to live back in the Wild West because I love old gunslinger movies.
Hmm.
And I'd love to live in like the roaring 20s and 30s because I was a huge Jimmy Cagney fan and I love all the old gangster movies and just the musicals and era. And then I think I really like air conditioning and healthy food, and I really like sleeping in a comfortable bed. So I think if I could go back to any era, it would be the 1980s, so I could relive them again because they were so fun, so amazing, so magical for me. As boring as that sounds, that was my era, baby. I love it.
No,
Music,
I get it. I'm
movies,
there.
yeah.
I probably have outfits left over from there.
Like I
So,
said,
okay.
when you see my ghost, Patty, I will not look like Rick from Pawn Stars when I haunt people. I will have my fluffy George Michael hair with my little hoop earring. I will be wearing my Bruce Springsteen bandana. I will be
Yes.
wearing my torn Bon Jovi jeans. That is how I will elect to be seen when I'm a ghost. So,
Okay, I
yeah,
will meet you there. I love that. Oh my God, Dave, you are just such a delight. I
thank you.
can't thank you enough. Tell anybody what you have coming up, where they can find you, where they can find your podcast.
Sure. My podcasts, both of them, are easy to find. Paranormal 60, that's the best one to look up, and then Paranormal 360. That's Paranormal 360. And wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, and you'll be able to find my shows there. Um, you can also keep up with me and where I'm going to be and come out and investigate or shake hands or get a free hug, do a selfie with me. Darknessevents.com. Darknessevents.com shows all the locations I'll be throughout the year and all the amazing people I'll be working with. So you can check that out. And then I've got two books out. I've got one book called The Other Side, A Teen's Guide to Ghost Hunting and the Paranormal. And then I have, which was a fun book. It's not really written specifically for teens. It's for anybody interested in the paranormal. I just wanted to make a book that was easily accessible and didn't talk over your head and made you feel inclusive in your interests in becoming a paranormal investigator. And then I wrote a
Excellent.
book last year that came out called Theater of the Mind: Tales from the Darkness, and they're real stories of ghosts, UFOs, aliens, monsters, and other strange stories of the supernatural. Two of them are mine. I have a haunted doll and a haunted hospital story, and the rest are from listeners who shared with me over the last 19 years. I'm working on the second book of that. I'm also working on a brand new book that I hope to have out by the end of June, beginning of July for this year, and I'm keeping that kind of under wraps for right now, but when it comes out, I'll let you know, Patty. And yeah, so the best way to keep up with me is paranormal60.com, and you'll find my swag shops, my books, my events, everything I'm going to be a part of right there.
You guys follow him, like him, check him out, go see him, go get a selfie and a hug. Thank you, Dave. One of my
Thank you.
absolute favorite people that I admire beyond belief. So thank you for bringing your magic to the witching hour.
Well, thank you. And let me just say this, and not just because you politely invited me to your show. I love you and I really respect the work that you do. You're a friend, and you're a friend to people on this side and the other side, and you're a ray of light to the locations that you visit and the spirits that you interact with and the people that you help heal. So thank you for the work that you do, Patty. And may God bless you and keep you safe and allow you to do this work for another 50 years.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, welcome to the witching hour.